Ребят, прекрасная погода, прекрасное мероприятие. И я очень рад
Okay,
выступать на этой
guys,
сцене.
hello. It's my pleasure to be the first speaker here, and I'll be talking about incidents in information security. And I'm so happy to see you here, to see an audience, and to see that you are not spread on the floor, you are not standing either. Hello, everyone. My name is Sergey Golovanov, and I'm chief security expert in the Kaspersky lab. Well, I have shown this slide many times, and I'm still a chief expert. I still run research, and I analyze and investigate incidents. And I'm here to talk to you about incidents. Surprise, surprise. So you all know that incidents are growing in numbers, and both the media and customers sharing with us more and more issues, and the market of information security is also growing. And well, it turns out that the life of security experts is getting more and more interesting. There are more and more people getting involved in this, and we are experiencing a lot of incidents and reports thereof. Well, I do read these reports. Well, sometimes I write them, by the way, but sometimes I read what other people have to say, and sometimes it just blows my mind. And when this happens, I screenshot this, and I screenshot the things which drive me crazy. And now it's time to speak. So I believe that I should talk about this long nagging issue, the contents of the incident response reports. And this is exactly what I'm going to share with you. I'll be talking about DeFi and Remar. So who knows what DeFi stands for? DFIR. Who doesn't know what this stands for? Okay, those who know this, please whisper it to the ear of those who don't know. Yeah, that's a good idea, isn't it? Okay, I'll be brief. We have IT security, we have incidents. So I hope that you know what an incident is. Here we have integrity, accessibility, or confidentiality issues. And when they run an incident, they have a plan, like what to do. And these plans are many. And well, when I was getting ready for this talk, I counted to 20, I think, looking at them. And the most important one is the NIST standard. And there are 4 items there, in English, by the way. You can hardly understand what it is all about. And we also have the SENSE plan. And, well, I would like to say that this 6-item SENSE plan to response is closer to my heart. I have gone through some tests on this. Well, be them 4 or 6, it doesn't really matter. We also have Google, they have 5 items in their incident response process. The most important thing here is that this is a cycle. So it means that those who are in this cycle, they are there once and forever. There is no escape. And this is standardized, and people are tested against this. And if we translate this into plain Russian, you can explain it like that. The first one is preparing for the incident. So here we have trainings, reading reports, updating your tools, and so on. So you are just sitting there idling as your management sees it. And then you detect the incident. And it depends. Say, a pro-Ukrainian Telegram channel says that a company is hacked. And for many, this is exactly what detection is about. They didn't know anything. The SIEM was silent, your security alerts were silent, and then you detect it. Okay, there are threat hunters, those who look for issues. You can also engage with various hunts for socks and so on. So they have found something messy in the network. What follows is the analysis of what has been found. There are two errors here. Why so? When you find one thing, say a connection through the RDP, so you have this alert. Well, it means that you will have the IP. It means that you should go there, and there you see a process, and you need to analyze the process, and this becomes a cycle again. When analyzing this, you usually have a look at the disks and logs. You do reverse engineering of Trojans, for instance, and then you start this containment. So you block the IPs, you delete Trojans, you change the passwords, you burn the disks, and after that you start the recovery. So you have burned down the disk, so you should reinstall it. And here we kind of do backups, and we go back to our usual work. And then we have lessons learned, and usually after this incident we have some recommendations of what to do to prevent this from happening again. And then we are just sitting there waiting for the next incident. Any questions? Is it clear to you? Okay, who understands this? Could you raise your hand, please? Okay, and those who have no idea what it was about, please raise your hands. Okay, I got it right. Well, in this we have an internal cycle. It looks like this. So these are the people who analyze and detect. They do DF, they look at the hard drives. RE is about reverse engineering of Trojans, they analyze the scripts, and IR is about parsing logs. So you can also show it like that. And when I was making this scheme, well, anyone who does response management will see there an S. But I would put a smile here. It's not an S for me. This is a smile. Okay. Jokes aside, many things can go wrong throughout this plan. And I will start with the reverse engineering blunders. And to be more clear, I will start with my first mistake. So this is the mistake I made. So this is March this year, I was there, and then the response team sent me Trojans. What kind of incident was it? Okay, Linux infrastructure, Jira compromise, and the team sent me 3 Trojans, 3 files for me to analyze, detect, or otherwise, and my goal was to reverse them quickly. Okay, it sounds nice. Let's have a look at the first one. The first one is Win shell, no problem in terms of reversing it. Strings from the not reverse engineering, but here we are talking about channels, so we can see what it's doing. We can take a disassembler, we can see what's inside, we can see the port it uses, so we have the compromise indicator. The second Trojan is more interesting. It's Java, this is a shell and a Trojan for Confluence. We have a great blog post from Altessian on this, and there they talk about the way this malicious code goes to Confluence and to Jira, how it works, and they analyze it, giving you a step-by-step guidance on how you need to work to detect it, and so on. Well, this is interesting and funny. And now it's time for the third one. The third Trojan, well, we had a bad start. Strings didn't work, and if you start reversing it, try to open it through the disassembler, they have the structure over the structure, and register after register, and so you don't have enough time to analyze it when the incident is happening. This happens about midnight. Okay, what do? I take a virtual machine, I ask for the Linux the Trojan was infected with. They give me a CentOS like that. I take the CentOS, I start it up, I look at what is going on. The shell opens up, and I'm there sitting looking at this saying, okay, here is the shell. Okay, it opens. I don't know. Well, similarly, that's what's going on. Maybe, but I'm not sure. And these guys who are there at night looking at the disks and the logs, they're telling me, thank you, Serежа. I go to bed, and in the morning, these guys on site tell me, thank you, Serежa, but the Trojan, the shell, well, this is what it does. Okay, what did the Trojan do? Okay, it saw whether it was dealing with GDB and tracer. Then it didn't do anything suspicious. It was just using machine ID. Then it decrypted the payload, and then you had the big Trojan with a lot of logs and so on. As a result, I missed the forest for the trees, and I'd like to thank the guys for identifying this, for reversing this quickly, and this didn't cause a lot of problems. Okay, what is a mistake? This is an unintended deviation from the right thing. Okay, when you respond to incidents, what are the mistakes you can say? Number one, you don't write what was there. When I reversed the Trojan, my mistake was like that, exactly. The second type of mistakes in response management is about writing something which didn't happen. Well, when you reverse this, this gives rise to unimaginable anecdotes. Okay, I was tired, I was sleepy, and sorting out these Linux issues, well, was too much for me. I didn't have enough broadband for this. But when people deal with incidents, they have some specific features. We have data on our computers, like the hard drive, information files, and they have some information. Those looking at this during the incident perceive this information. Like we have logs, the text logs from, say, EVTX, you can parse them. Then you obtain some knowledge from this information, then you have some insight, and then you get your professional expertise. But more often than not, people from this in this process, they jump to the next level. They start developing theories. So people are tired. Here is an incident. They try to reverse the Trojans. And I had 3 cases like that. So here is a guy analyzing a Trojan for 3 to 4 hours. And when he was making a report, he had to describe the Trojan. And in this description, he said, this Trojan makes screenshots, it records videos, it intercepts your keyboard operation, and so on. So this is what the Trojan does. And as it turned out, there were some screenshots, so they analyzed the Trojan without flirts. What is it about? So these are standard libs which are highlighted in blue by the disassembler. So it didn't analyze the Trojan, it analyzed the runtime. And indeed, well, it's clear. Well, there is some code which makes screenshots, but the problem is that it cannot be called. And this is a mistake which happened. And another thing we can often see is that, say, it's 3 a.m. and they are debugging the NTDLL. So you see, you have F8, F7, F9, so they mix up F7 and F8. and they just push a jump move. So you can see anti-DLL. And another issue is, again, for .NET, analyzing the runtime. In .NET, you can have a look at the function calling another function, and step by step, here is a guy describing the whole .NET. Why? Nobody knows. Well, again, we are tired. It's 3 in the morning. Let's talk about disk analysis. The first thing, the first issue I have seen within the last 2 years, so admins talk about it, I see it in incidents, so you cannot analyze hard drives. So a company has been encrypted, so they cannot analyze their hard drive. Okay. This comes as a rule. And the same is about encrypted files. Okay, the files are encrypted, so we cannot recover them. Full stop. You know, you can sign this and put your stamp on this. Well, maybe yes, maybe no. Okay, what shall we do if you try to respond to an encryption incident? Well, we should start with the infrastructure, how the company works, how many virtualizations they have, what type, the disks, the storage, and so on. But by default, the simplest thing you can do, you can take some simple tools like Test, Disk, PhotoRec, and RStudio. And, you know, we have the Bamboo malware, which encrypts at the host level in XSI. So it will encrypt all the hard drives. And similarly, well, you cannot decrypt this. But the problem is that they encrypt the first gigabyte. Okay, you just take these tools, you give them the disk. Okay, you will not recover the first gigabyte, but you don't need this Windows, do you? But the data stored in this virtual machine will be recovered like that. The second thing you should do when you analyze disks, you should take out the strings. So we have strings, we have strings 2. Strings 2 are better. And this is usually used to find offsets in specific disks to understand the text pieces. And texts are about logs, and logs are exactly what we need. And the third thing is like that. So the disk is encrypted, but you have a memory dump. And you can remove this encryption from the disk using this software, using the memory dump. Well, we have some issues to understand the algorithms for encryption, but with some Trojan encryption software, it can deal with well.
So when you read that you can't decrypt, you want to understand whether the person really tried to look up in strings or do PhotoRec. I'm not even talking about memory dump analysis, because people who do that, they don't even save memory dumps. Why would you want to save a memory dump of an encrypted hard drive? It's encrypted anyway. Strings are used all the time for logs. And so if your virtual drive is encrypted, or even Linux, then you would have your logs in a text format. And often when you go out on an incident and you talk to admins and you ask them for logs from the firewall, normally you would hear that there are no logs, and for the time of the incident you have to look them up yourself. And the reason that there are no logs is often very simple. People are just lazy.
Вы рано или поздно найдете системного администратора, который вам точно скажет,
You would sooner or later find
были.
a system administrator who would tell you that the logs
Во время анализа жесткого
are there.
диска то же самое обязательно
And when you do your hard drive analysis,
несмотря на то, что вам говорят, что
you
логов
also
нет,
want to
всё равно
use
их
strings.
накарить.
And even though you're being told that there are no logs, you
Пример
should
инцидента, когда вот
try and get
приходится карвить,
and,
это, значит, инцидент в крупной
and find the
компании,
logs. An example,
подрядчик, ну и, собственно говоря,
it's a large company, and the incident started
значит, в крупной компании, там, значит, слив данных, там,
with a data leak,
журналы пишут,
and it's all in the media.
работают, находят,
And
заходят,
guys start working, they see a breach from an IP, and they can see that it's an IP from the contractor, and they ask the contractor that, look, you have been breached. The contractor, the vendor, says, well, we don't know, it's not us. The large company says that, no, we have been breached through that contractor, and we advertise that this subcontractor brought us a breach. And then the contractor decides to do their own incident response, and the way they do it, they deploy the so-called golden images, and they tell the big company, okay, I've done what I had to, the incident is over, please can you bring us back? But no, things don't stop there. They're being asked to provide an information security report, and they can't produce it because they have deployed the golden images, and they come to me so that I produce the report for them. And this is my face when I see it.
Я приехал, значит, в эту контору,
I go to that company,
и что я начал делать?
and here's what I started to
Вы не
do.
поверите, но тот же самый слайд,
You wouldn't believe it, but the same slide, test disk, photo rack,
потому что мне,
and
на самом
strings.
деле, было, помните, я говорил, что бабук, там те первые гигабайты,
Remember I said that Babuk would erase, wipe out the first gigabyte of your Windows, and admins essentially did it themselves. So it didn't matter to me who deleted that first gigabyte, whether the admins or the hacker. For me, it doesn't really matter.
Итого, ошибка,
They were one and the same person, if you think of it.
во время реагирования они начали
So
перепрыгивать
the blunder of those admins was that they, during the response, they started jumping from one plan item to another. You shouldn't do that.
появляется база,
Let me give you another example. Okay, there's a data leak, and it was leaked from a web app. A person comes in to respond, and he sees that it's a container architecture. He starts looking at containers. He gets data from the containers. He gets the logs, and then he walks away.
После этого, спустя некоторое время, появляется
Then, in some time,
инцидент,
a response on the incident is generated, which says that it's impossible to determine the method that was used to access the data. But look, you have gathered the data yourself. How can you not determine it? So what I had to do, I had to take the containers, not the container logs, but the containers themselves, to run them and see that in the web, in the line at the bottom,
содержимое любого файла,
you are getting the contents of the file that you mention in the command line. That was the developer version.
собственно говоря, чувак, хакерок, который нашел вот этот сайт,
The hacker who found this website, this container,
читал любой файл на диске.
very simply sat there and was able to read any file. And of course, he took the passwords from there.
Только по журналу, только
And
по
of
логам.
course,
Это
if you
найти
only look at
невозможно.
logs, you wouldn't be able to find
Раз
it.
уж ты собрал данные, ну,
But since you have collected the data, can you please do something? Look, dude, you have gathered all the data. Do the next logical thing.
Что при этом нужно помнить во время сбора данных?
Another
Раз будет
thing
такое случается,
to remember related to data collection. It happens once in a year. When you copy your disks, you have SRC and DST. And please don't confuse them, because once in a blue moon, a person who makes a snapshot of an disk comes with an empty image. And when you make images from Linux to be stored on the network, gzip is used. Please don't. Please use xz. Why? Because with gzip, if a single byte somewhere in the middle is broken, you wouldn't be able to unpack the image. With xz, you don't get situations like that. And 3, when you analyze your data from CM, analyzing CSVs or whatever, it is important to remember delimiters. In CSVs, the user agent line may contain a comma. It just may happen to be there. And you don't want to grep up until that comma in that case. Sometimes 2 people would look at the same CM, and one person gets the data, the other person doesn't. What is the problem? The problem is delimiters. During data collection, you've got to remember that you would never get a second chance. You go away from the incident, the admins would immediately burn the hard disk drives. Okay, so we have discussed the reverse engineering where people the faults for the bugs. We have discussed data collection. And now let's proceed to the report. Producing a report. There's something produced by positive technology guys. And a help for responders, response engineers, is the absence of indicators of compromise. There are some people who believe that they are just not needed. You've got your computer names, you've got your file paths, and that's enough. Okay. What about IPs? What about MD5s? No, there's nothing of that kind, and that's the second hell. There are reports with no IPs or MD5s. Then the question becomes, what have you been doing? Why have you been wasting paper? And the biggest depth of the hell is the absence of outputs. There are incident reports, 200 pages long, of just logs, FLSs, screenshots, and no conclusions, And the question becomes, what is there to read? There are also reports where you would be better off not to have any conclusions. Let me give you examples of such conclusions.
Исходя из выявленных фактов, наиболее вероятно, что атакующий
Based on the facts identified, it is plausible that the attacker got into the infrastructure by exploiting an unknown vulnerability. You know, companies who say that they have been breached using zero-day vulnerability, I guess the reason for that is on the screen, because that sentence appeared in the conclusions of the report. Okay, potential zero-day, okay, possibly. Let's look at another conclusion. The initial compromise of the administrator account could happen in a number of ways. How interesting. Including an attack of using known breaches or local escalation of privilege. However, it's more probable that a leak of password happens during transfer on a local network,
где он мог храниться в открытом виде.
etc., where the password could be stored in an unencrypted form. You see, the person here
Он так видит, что это
has their own vision,
либо ЦВЕшка, которую никто не
that
знает,
this could be a CVE, that no one knows what it was,
передача по локальной
they
сети.
couldn't find it, or transfer on a local network.
Возможными вариантами
The
компрометации данной учетной
possible
записи являются
methods of compromise were interception of network traffic with extraction of authentication information,
использование корпоративных учетных
the
записей
use of corporate accounts
незащищенных устройств
on
сотрудников.
unprotected personal devices of employees.
Не знаю.
What could it be? I don't know.
То есть, чувак, ну и что?
Okay, dude, so what?
Перебор слабых паролей учетных записей или инсайд?
And
Чувак просто
enumeration of weak passwords or an inside
отправил на допрос.
information. Well, if a person writes that, well, he sends all of the team
Это плохие
to
примеры, как
be
правильно. Вот нашел отчет, прям это не
questioned.
мой отчет. Значит, там было написано: способ, время, источник компрометации данной учетной записи на основании предоставленных информации установить не удалось. Точка. Ну
Or,
не знаешь ты, как ее скомпрометировали. Ну не
well,
нашел.
if you don't know how the password was compromised, you'd better state it in plain language.
Знаете, очень
Why
популярная
invent
тема
things?
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT
У Гугля
is
есть
popular
готовый промпт.
lately, and Google has a ready prompt.
Значит, промпт выглядит вот так. Значит,
Here's how it
привет,
looks.
ChatGPT, ты респондер, значит, напиши мне отчет.
Hi, ChatGPT, you are an incident responder. Please write a report. And ChatGPT writes
Если
great
вы волнуетесь,
conclusions.
что вашу работу заберут,
If you are worried that you will be disrupted by chatbots, I know a few
которых можно совершенно спокойно заменить
vacancies
прямо сейчас.
of people who can be replaced with chatbots right away.
Отдельный ад — это отсутствие исследовательской
A
части,
separate type of
соответственно,
hell
отсутствие
is the absence of research.
где чувак просто пишет
Let
там,
me
типа,
give you the same example with
были
Babok,
пошифрованы бабуком.
where disks, hard disk drives were encrypted with Babok.
Как бы два вопроса. Что такое бабук?
And two questions arise. First, what is
С чего
Babok?
ты взял, что это бабук?
Why do you think that is Babok altogether?
Диски были именно
And
зашифрованы.
why do you think that the
Ну, то есть,
drives were encrypted with that
видишь,
software?
или тебе
Is that your vision?
в Telegram написал, что
Or
это был бабук.
did the hacker write to you in Telegram
Пример
that
хорошего
they used
это,
Babok?
собственно говоря,
An example of a good report
конкретный анализ
is one that gives very specific analysis and with reference to the key findings of the report,
бла-бла-бла. Для
such as this, for
которых характерно
example.
использование константы следующие. То есть здесь
files
представлена
using
сама
constants,
константа,
etc. So the
дальше
text here
offset файле,
provides
где есть
the
эта же
constants, and it also provides an offset file which has the same constants. Also, the ransom
текстовый файл, который мы
requirements.
обнаружим на том же самом
There's a
диске.
text file that we can find in the same disk,
Остается этот файл.
and also there's an offset where that same
Ну и,
requirement
собственно,
appears.
называется это всё имя файла бабук. Более того, мы можем пойти в интернет,
We can
найти исходники
look up
программ,
the internet and we can
которые
find the source code
содержат функции и
of
пользовательские
the
идентичные
software
тому, что
that contains the functions and user messages identical to what we have found on the hard disk drive. So after that, yes, I agree that it might have been Babok.
Что происходит после того, как люди обычно сдают?
What happens after people submit reports? They go home to get some sleep, to get some rest, and they start enjoying their life.
Проблема в том, что отчет, написанный по инциденту информационной
The problem is that
автоматически,
an incident report
считается, что у нас инцидент не равно преступлению.
automatically the thinking is that an incident is not a crime. Say if a tree falls in the forest and it breaks a cable and the internet is down and no one noticed that it was a tree that caused it, people don't care. Okay, is it an incident? Yes. Is it a crime? No.
Однако,
However,
когда
sometimes
инциденты превращаются именно в преступление. То есть у нас есть
incidents do become
Ну и,
crimes.
собственно говоря, у тебя микрофон включен.
Your microphone is on.
Собственно говоря, после этого получается у нас, что инцидент как раз превратился уже в преступление. И
And an incident might become a crime.
реагирование
And an
неожиданно
incident report
превращается в доказательство
suddenly
свидетеля.
becomes
И вот тут вот все выкрутасики
evidence.
о том, что
or a
может
testimony of an evidence.
превращается
And so
в заведомо
the
ложные
language
показания.
that it could have been an inside information that immediately falls into turns into false testimony, and that's bad. So please do not write on your report
Ну и быстро по нашей
anything
общей
that
схеме
you haven't
у нас
seen
мы пробежались
personally.
по внутреннему кругу.
Okay,
У нас
so we have
остался,
discussed this
внешний
diagram,
еще круг,
we have
и
discussed
ошибки
this
по
inner
внутреннему
circle,
кругу.
we have the outer
Значит, самое
circle,
первое,
the
недавно
blunders that
у
happened
нас
during the
был
containment.
шифровальщик,
First, I've seen it
и
recently,
один,
there was an
он
encryption malware,
разговаривал с,
and
там было торги, знаете, вот эти вот, я распакую, там, типа, распакую вам за 2 миллиона долларов.
the
Только нет, давай за 1.
individual was negotiating. Okay, I can decrypt for 2 million. We don't have this money. Okay, I'll do that for 1 million.
Я не знаю,
And at some point in
но чувак
time,
начал атакующему грубить.
the individual on our side started saying rude things to the attacker. He started saying things that we've got an incident response team on site and we'll now detect your IP and you'll be
Начинается
done.
уничтожение данных. То есть у нас начинает вайпать все.
And at this point in time, we start seeing data wipe. So please
Провоцировать. Ну и последнее,
not
это у нас
provoke
тоже буквально на прошлой неделе у меня было.
attackers.
Чувак
And
ушел и закрыл на ключ.
another thing that happened just last week, the guy went away and locked the server room.
Нам нужны образа, диски.
We sit there working, we need images, we need hard disk drives, and the person left and locked the server room. And he had his own logic. We asked him why, and he said, that is for hackers not to get in.
Сдерживал.
So that was an act of containment for him.
Ошибка восстановления — это
A blunder at recovery
кроме у сервисных.
is to change all accounts other than the service accounts. Don't do that.
Ушлые. Они, например, берут рабочий ноутбук.
Or sometimes
Значит, им говорят там типа, чувак, у нас инцидент.
People
Он
would
берет ноутбук,
take
выключает и увозят его на дачу.
a laptop, they would turn it off and they would take it somewhere to their country house while there's an incident response. And it has to be addressed, it has to be looked at. And we asked him, where's your laptop? Well, it's in my country house. And another blunder is recovering
Закладкой.
affected backups
На детекты там.
only once a year.
У них все срабатывает. Ну и типа заново инцидент начинается.
And when you deploy such a backup, you restart an incident. And finally, the final blunder is to ignore recommendations.
Рекомендации.
Recommendations.
В отчетах есть рекомендации.
Reports have recommendations. Let me give you an example.
Мне нравится
I like
провести
this one.
полное обновление всех серверов
To
инфраструктуры. Это,
do
на самом
a
деле,
complete
нормальный
update
путь.
of
Ну, то
all
есть,
servers within an
сломали
infrastructure.
сервер,
Well, that's a good thing. People were hacked by known CVE.
он хороший.
That's a good thing. That's a good recommendation. And the final
Провести поиск следов компенсации внутри всей
item,
инфраструктуры.
to find traces of compromise within all infrastructure. Well, haven't you done that? What have you been doing?
Что-то есть.
Is there anything else, I mean?
Второй пример.
Okay, another
Мне
example.
нравится, сам так делаю, это когда рекомендации пишу в порядке как бы приоритетов. Ну, то есть,
I like when
называю, как
recommendations are
начинается инцидент,
prioritized.
и мы,
I do it
собственно, идем
myself.
по первому приоритету,
So
это с точки входа.
we
Стараюсь сделать, чтобы больше эта точка входа не работала.
first we
Пишет, «Всё хорошо,
describe the
первая
entry
очередная
points to
рекомендация».
make sure that
И
this entry point never
в
happens
списке
again.
первоочередных
And so
рекомендаций у него было
The
написано
list of first priority recommendations, for example, included, to the extent possible, to restrict access to local area networks from all other networks, including through VPN.
Представляю людей, которые сидят
I imagine people
Вася, режь провод.
who
Ну и самое
sit in the
шикарное.
company, inside the company, and say, okay, let's cut the wire.
Высечение в камне.
And the final one that I guess is it deserves to be carved in stone is to turn on
Но выглядит как
writing
технический
logs.
распил бюджета.
I don't know what that is, but that looks to me as
$2 миллиона на логирование логов.
a crazy corruption opportunity. Like, look, we need $2 million for writing logs. Okay, conclusions. We have an incident response plan, and it has many items, but things may not go to plan, and that's okay.
Соответственно, перепрыгивать из-за этого на другие пункты, сразу там заливать обратно.
Jumping to other items of the plan, such as writing images right away, is not something you should do. Or patching servers in the middle of an incident response, or deleting Trojans by complete network scan. You don't want to do that. Wait for results.
Что вы где-то, ну, немножко глюканули.
Once you see that, okay, you made a blunder, the first thing you want to do is to acknowledge the blunder. Please do not try to eliminate your mistakes, so to say. There was an instance when I was being told for 2 days that, look, this IP is suspicious. And I told them, no, this is Cloudflare. And I was being told, no, that's just
В той сети.
suspicious
Ну,
IP.
просто айпишник. Ну и что? За индикатор компрометации не считается. Ну и, собственно говоря, надо следовать словам,
And finally,
конкретным фактам.
you want to
и
follow
признакам.
theories, words, specific facts, and attributes.
На этом, собственно говоря, я заканчиваю свою
And
презентацию.
that brings me to the end of my
И хочу вам
presentation.
сказать последние напутствия.
And I want
Во
to
время
say my
реагирования на инциденты
final
нужно быть
words as part of this
осторожным.
presentation.
Ну и самое
During
главное,
incident
не
response,
забудьте
you want to be cautious.
включить логирование логов.
And finally,
Спасибо.
remember to write your logs, whatever that means. Thank you.